For September the 11th, 2015, we talk about the Ubisoft theme park, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, and we do a free play multiplayer. Welcome to the 120th level. My name is Cole Ross.
My name's David Maismith.
I'm Jala Prendez.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And you're listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. I need to go through the history because I have all of this data and figure out how often each combination occurs.
How many total possible combinations are there?
Yeah, wait. Wouldn't it be a permutation? No.
I don't know. But by which I mean, I get the sense that it's not very often that it's Dennis out and it's the three of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, but in the last few weeks, I have subbed out for like everybody else except you, Cole.
Yeah, well, if I'm not, I mean, I hate to say this, but if I'm not here, it's very difficult for it to be a show. Mm-hmm. But that's only because of technical reasons. I have full faith that any of you could do. You could probably host, if not as good as I could, better than.
Yeah, we've several times tried the the cargo call podcasting thing where we just sort of record footage, put it on a computer, and start sacrificing chickens, but it's never quite worked out.
David, I told you before that's just a documentary about KFC. That's not a podcast. Yeah, but thank you, Jala, for filling in for Dennis, who just mysteriously said he couldn't show up. I hope he's okay.
He seems to be fine. He posted a multiplayer question.
Oh, I suppose he did. I just kind of take it on faith that that's going to happen.
That's one of those things that's like the ultimate like Dennis life sign is if that ever doesn't happen, then we become very worried.
It almost didn't happen. He had to be flagged down and be like, "Hey, Dennis, multiplayer?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry. Yeah,
he got slacked."
Yeah, he got slacked.
Oh, so, I think that we should probably jump into the show, just because I'd like to do it. So we've got the usual for you here with the brief, talked about some news. We've got a free play multiplayer, which I always look forward to. Dennis was so kind as to put that up. And then we're going to round things out with a grind, which I'm very excited about. So let's jump right in with the brief, where we talk about things that are happening in the world around us. Now, Jala, I know that you had a news story that you were pretty excited about.
Well, this one is actually about a bunch of different games that are all kind of in one genre, and it relates sort of kind of to my grind, so it's kind of a big thing. This is basically about a bunch of games that are designed more or less to help expand social consciousness. Now, this is kind of related to things that I've talked about before, partially because at least two of these were made by some high school girls tag teaming and doing this via like a Girls Who Code camp. So it's the same kind of thing as like when I talked about the whole story and some other things previously. Mm-hmm. The games that were mentioned were Bias Breaker, which was created by a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. And you begin the game by selecting one of three characters. There is Amira, who is a Muslim asexual girl, Elliot, who is a black transgender girl, Jax, a genderqueer Hispanic with vitiligo, which is a disease that causes the loss of skin color and blotches. And I don't know that actually plays out anywhere in the actual game. It's just like you get to make that choice and be represented by one of these characters. But what basically the mechanic of the game is that you shoot bullets at green blobs that have stereotypes attached to them as text bubbles. And example text includes things like, all girls like pink, or all Asians are good at math, or bisexuals are confused. And it's basically just a bunch of stereotypes. And as you hit them, the blobs and therefore also the stereotypes disappear. This plays a lot like something that I'm going to talk about in the grind. So like keep a little pin in that. Other games that were mentioned were Decisions That Matter, which is a choose-your-own-adventure game where you can intervene in several fictional but realistic circumstances, such as a group of college women confronting a street harasser, one classmate making physical advances on another who is unwilling and doesn't want the contact, and so on. So that's kind of like a visual novel, but where you are actively trying to take a part to keep bad things from happening to other people and just raising your awareness that way.
It's got a cool visual style. It's like a motion comic.
See, I'm kind of disappointed that this is a visual novel as opposed to like a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Well, there's some more. Final Girls features a support group for women from popular movies who talk about their various types of trauma, including things like bullying and stalking. You can assume different roles of different women throughout and choose to open up or to keep to yourself. And through the discussion, players learn about coping strategies for trauma and are awarded points based on how much they share. Another one is called Tampon Run, which is another that was made by another high school girl duo. And the only thing that I can say about this is that apparently the female protagonist hurls tampons at enemies rather than using guns or other weaponry. So I guess it's like, feel the power of my uterus. I don't know. Like, okay.
This thing is perfectly natural and is completely not harmful. Now use this as a weapon against people.
Yeah, I'm gonna lob cotton at you. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, the next one that's mentioned is Long Story, which for listeners who have been paying attention to stuff I've been playing, I talked about on episode 99, actually. So if you want to go back and listen about it, you can listen to my play there in the grind. So there's that. Then there's also one more that's considered that's called Parable of the Polygons, which teaches players how small individual biases can become large institutional biases. Basically, all the polygons on the screen prefer to be with at least a third of their neighbors looking like themselves. So, like, you've got squares and triangles, okay? And you've got to try to accommodate by dragging around the shapes. And then you realize as you play that it's impossible to accommodate without completely segregating areas. And that basically is another, representational thing, just trying to raise social awareness. Now, my main question on all of these, that it's interesting that these things are being made. It's also interesting that, 2 of those were made by high school girls. And I know the Long Story team also has a lot of girls on it. And also Decisions That Matter was made by some college women. So a lot of women are making these kind of social challenging, types of games. But I haven't.
Serious games? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've played Long Story, and I like that one a lot. I don't know about these others and how fun they are. Like, I don't know if someone who's looking, for example, for a visual novel, if they would be as interested in, more interested in, or less interested in something like Decisions That Matter, which is the one where you are constantly challenged to intervene in dramatic instances, or, I don't know how much of a market, I guess is what I'm saying, there is for this.
It seems like the difficulty could be, it's important, it's good to have a game that's meaningful, but it also needs to be a good game.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. And I gotta say, like I had said previously when I played A Long Story, and my conclusion was I enjoyed it. I wasn't so sure at first, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I do want to keep playing that game. It has aspects about bullying, about gender equality. There's people of all different races that are in there. Like one of the, like, there is a dating sim type of aspect to it, and you can elect to be with a person who's in a giant chicken suit, and you don't even know if they're male, female, what. You don't know. It's not even relevant to the conversation because they're always in a chicken suit. So, so that actually was a really fun game.
To be fair, if it was like a chicken suit as opposed to a rooster suit, wouldn't that make them female?
Well, the mascot is actually something that's not actually a chicken. It's like some other made-up creature, and it just happens to look like a chicken. So I'm using shorthand. I don't remember what they call the creature in the game, but.
So there's another one I want to throw in here that's not on this list that I've talked about before. It's called Elude. ELUDE. This was made as part of an MIT kind of game jam kind of thing in order to actually communicate what depression feels like. specifically for cultures where that is very like just kind of like not something that is widely understood to be a real thing. I want to say Singapore, but looking at the site, it doesn't. It's somewhere in the region. But it's a side-scrolling platformer where the higher you go on the screen, the kind of brighter and happier everything is. But there are times where you have to fall down below into the forest where it's all dark, and it's very effective, and it's a good metaphor. And I think that, you know, there are probably like two ways that this can happen. There's either something like long story or something like or decisions that matter, which I think will show up in mainstream games like Life is Strange, if you can consider Life is Strange as a mainstream kind of thing, where it's, you know, like those kind of issues are brought up in the context of like a soap opera kind of thing. Or something like this that kind of leads forward with, and I'm sorry to use this word because it's been ruined, leads with an agenda, or kind of like lays its thesis out at the start, and thus kind of comes under a little bit more scrutiny.
Yeah, see, if it's something like, say, for example, Gone Home presents, you know, stuff that, you know, going into the game, you don't necessarily know that it's going to have aspects of you know, like your sister's you know, preferences and whatnot. But
I feel like we should spoiler tag that, by the way.
Yeah, you
I mean, it's aspects of it. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, like that is something that you don't go into the game looking for, and that's a main part of the game, but it's not the sole functionality of the game. That you just want to know what happened to your family in general because you come home and there's nobody there. So, you know.
I feel like the other thing is I feel like something like a Gone Home or the depression game you mentioned, something like that. I feel like that's ultimately going to be more effective because in effect it's less preachy. And in particular, I think the issue is that it sounds like a lot of the other games very much have a, this is the solution. And I don't think that's a thing.
I
think there's both going to be lots of different solutions and lots of different perspectives on what the solutions are.
But I think more so than proposing like, hey, here's a solution. I think that where these games can succeed, I can't speak to any of these that are listed here aside from Elude, but where these can succeed is actually by trying to build empathy. Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean to say. That's what I mean to say when I say that I think like Gone Home or that depression game are effective.
Well,
because they basically present the situation and allow you to build empathy, and then without necessarily saying this is the solution. It's more just shows you that it's a problem.
Well, you're basically what you're saying is it's raising awareness without kind of beating you with it.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something.
And, it's kind of like Saudi Girls Revolution, for example, which is, again, another game I mentioned previously during one of the prior news stories. That one is one that raises awareness of the fact that Saudi women can't drive, that they have strong spirits too, whatever. But it's not necessarily about that. Like, they just happen to be the female protagonists, all female protagonists in this game who do these things that they're not actually allowed to do in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And, I think we need more of this kind of thing, like Decisions That Matter or Long Story. Like, Long Story succeeds in being a good game. It is a fun game. I would recommend it to anybody, just like I did on episode 99. But at the same time, I don't want it to have like a schism where it's its own branch that's over here. It needs to be integrated into, some of the other games that are out there as aspects of the gameplay rather than as like, this is the only point about the game. So like, only if you're looking for that will you actually play it, Yeah,
it's sort of like documentaries. No one actually watches the vast majority of documentaries just because. I mean, unless you happen to be someone who likes you know what I'm saying?
You're talking to people who like documentaries, David.
I was going to say that's a little bit of projection.
But
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with documentaries is that for them to be effective, they would have to actually be able to reach a wide audience, and a lot of them, or not to be effective. Obviously, they are effective, but you know what I'm saying. Their effect is blunted by the fact that they're a niche.
Well, to raise awareness to the people who need the awareness of the thing, you have to first catch the people's awareness, like catch their attention and say, this is something you want to pay attention to so they can actually see the message. And if it's in its own separate little category off over here, then they're not necessarily going to be pursuing that. They're going to be playing whatever is more fun for them, not, oh, this sounds like a preachy game, I don't want to play it.
And like, go ahead. The perfect can't be the enemy of the good here too, right? Just because it won't get out there. Yeah. But like, if you can encapsulate this, your view of this issue in some kind of, just either fun or poignant metaphor, and somebody else plays it, some other game developer, that tends to bubble outward. And so you just like in every mind that you change with this, or every person that you give a little bit more perspective, and I'll be over here with my butterflies and my squirrels and stuff.
The other thing I wonder is, I was thinking of kind of with some of what you're saying with some of the more explicitly gamey games, like the one with the Saudi women. Is I kind of remind of was it President Palmer from 24, a TV show? It was there's been some studies or analysts that have cited him as being one of the things that allowed Barack Obama to become president, and that it was one of the first depictions of a African American president that was had a lot of mainstream popularity and kind of introduced this idea to people that maybe they weren't consciously against but just never considered. And I wonder if that
seems like they overlooked a little movie called Deep Impact.
Fair enough.
Well, some of these other
ones Fifth Element, but
well, to be fair, some of these other games do seem like they would be interesting to play. Like Parable of the Polygons is abstracted, so it's not throwing it in your face, and Decisions That Matter sounds like it might be interesting enough to be fun and, fun, quote, and interesting to play to the point that, it can stand on its own aside from being, supposedly preachy or whatnot. But, stuff like Tampon Run, that just sounds like, another indie swap where it's like, hey, let's just change. What if we changed all the weapons to tampons? Like that kind of a thing. Like that's, I don't know exactly what message that's supposed to be telling you. Like
again, this completely natural thing that is totally harmless can be used as a weapon.
I guess. There you go. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like totally harmless seems kind of relevant. Like it seems like I remember from high school health class, just like when they would ever talk about that, it was about how if you screwed up, you would get like
toxic shock syndrome.
And like I don't know. I just remember that creeping the hell out of me.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'm not trying to minimize how. Man, I don't.
Never mind. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let's just. Yeah. Okay. We've been talking about this for a little bit.
Yes,
I think that. Yes. So I'll do mine just because it's real quick. The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth has a release date. It's coming out October 30th, just in time for Halloween.
Wahoo!
I know, right? So it's going to be like a $10 expansion, it looks like, and they're adding like 100 weapons and a bunch of new bosses and new levels and new challenge types and stuff. Looks really great. And yeah, that's the extent of that. Ben, how about you?
Okay, yeah, so my story is Fallout 4 announced that they have over 110,000 lines of spoken dialogue in the game, which I think is going to be a new record. Previously, Fallout New Vegas had 65,000 lines of spoken dialogue, and that set the record when that came out. Mm-hmm. And Fallout 3 only had 40,000 lines, and then I think Diablo 3 had 16,000, just for kind of benchmarking. So 16,000 of the 110,000 of Fallout 4's is from the main character, because apparently the main character will speak all of the lines instead of it just being selected and implied that it was said.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, we've known that for a little bit. I wonder, so 16,000, does that mean there's 8,000 per gender that's represented in the game, or?
I'm not sure if they double count it or not. So, yeah.
That'd be a way to pad it. I don't trust these numbers now, Ben.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Perhaps they didn't even they only counted as one, and they didn't count the other, so there's 32,000 worth for between both characters. Go either way,
I suppose.
Yeah.
David, you seem conflicted about there being spoken dialogue in this.
Oh, I'm just not sure I like the idea of the main character having spoken dialogue, just because I feel like, at least for me, the main character sounds like me. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think particularly, like, I mean, to be honest, like, it probably won't be that big of a deal for me because I'm a white straight dude, which is probably what voice they're going to go for. But if you had an accent or spoke a different dialect of English or something like that, I feel like that, that I don't know. Like, I don't think it'll be awful, but I'm just not sure that'll be great, Yeah,
I think you raise a valid point because it seems like with video games, there's kind of two ways you can go. You can either commit to a certain character and you just kind of have a window to that character, or you can try and make kind of a class building thing so that you can project yourself onto the character. And it seems like they're choosing a project yourself onto the character given the character creation system, but yeah, the voice does seem to kind of go against that.
The objection that I would raise to this might actually, not be an objection anymore because it was addressed fairly well in Fallout 3 and in New Vegas, which is to say, I would be worried that having this much voice, and especially having the main character have a voice, would kind of limit the scope of the ways that individual quests can shake out, right? Like, I really enjoy being able to approach, like, say, in New Vegas, having a high enough strength stat to be able to be like a tough guy, right? And and threaten people, or to do like a low intelligence run, which admittedly that was less represented and less kind of like widespread in 3 and in New Vegas. Because of the voice, like 1 and 2, you can do those low intelligence runs and just walk around being just to have just like a very
caveman.
Yeah, caveman, like very very limited faculties as regards speech, and sometimes that works to your advantage. Most times it doesn't, though. I would be curious if they're still going to allow for that, and I would hope that they would know that is enough of a thing for people. But there was enough variety in 3 and especially New Vegas to make me think that I might just be, kind of jumping at shadows there a little bit.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm excited about this game.
Yeah. I haven't been following this as much as I should. Have they said where it's set?
Boston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the release date's November 10th. But this does kind of fall in line with what they said earlier about how they were focusing less on graphics of the game and more on content of the game.
Yes, which is good to hear.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. That's
especially since they probably get some of the graphics improvements, effectively for free. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh, just from being able to use like higher res textures and stuff.
Yeah. Just technology's improved, so as long as you basically make things with current technology, it's going to be better than last time.
Yeah. I mean, I think Bethesda really knows what the people who are going to keep buying their games care about. And they kind of know that, even though their audience is going to grow, they don't need to, spend an awful lot of resources trying to get people who wouldn't be into what they're slinging.
Right.
Yeah. And then let's round out. David, how about you?
Sure. This is sort of a silly one, but apparently it's been announced that Ubisoft is going to open a theme park in, I really hope I'm pronouncing this right, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Kuala Lumpur.
Yes. Which is apparently just like a huge freaking city in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's supposed to open What?
Sorry, I'm just whenever somebody says Malaysia out loud, I think of Milady and that image of the guy with the fedora tipping it, and so I picture it apostrophe
courting the continent of Asia.
Yes, Malaysia. Continue. I'm sorry.
So I was thinking Milady like Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers.
Anyways, yeah. So it's supposed to open in 2020, and the project is done by Ubisoft Motion Pictures, which is the branch that's in charge of turning Ubisoft games into movies, because apparently that's a branch.
A track record of success.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah. So they haven't really said much that isn't marketing speech. The article I'm reading, it's actually Fortune.com article. Has some speculation that Raving Rabbids would probably feature prominently.
There hasn't been a Raving Rabbids game for 5 years.
Well, maybe it's about time.
Huh.
Yeah. So I could see that. Also that Just Dance would probably be pretty easy to make a thing around. And then, the most obvious one is like
you have to climb everywhere like in Assassin's Creed.
No, I was gonna say deaths by falling rise 10,000% in Malaysia. As how do I get down from the tower? Jump, you dummy.
Yeah, well, I do have to be honest. When I first saw this headline about Ubisoft having a theme park, my immediate thought was, you mean Venice? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, wait, Assassin's Creed, Fallout 3, wasn't that an Ubisoft game? And that was set off the coast of Malaysia, but
what? Far Cry 3? What?
Far Cry. I'm sorry. Begins with F. Open world.
Okay.
Lots of people died.
Afar.
That's about all they have to say. Although apparently, one of their little tag things they mention is that Nintendo is teaming up with Universal Studios to do some stuff at their parks. So that also sounds like an awesome thing. Actually, no, that sounds like an awesome thing. The other one sounds like a really bad idea, but
Ubisoft. Which one is bad? Ubisoft.
Okay. I don't know. Like it's one of those things. Like if you could actually make it good, I could see it. Like I don't know. I really like most of Ubisoft's games, so I would like to see more of that.
Is there any way this isn't some kind of like huge tax dodge? Like just I mean, just a way to siphon the development into a place with favorable tax laws. Which isn't to say that there isn't a huge audience for Ubisoft games in Malaysia. Yeah, I know nothing about Malaysia. Malaysia. Yeah, this is bizarre to me.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like I don't know if maybe this is an area that is like a regional resort area, or I just don't know.
Well, we will have to wait and find out. ...
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where usually we ask you to answer a question we think of, but this time, because Dennis is away, it's free play. Ding, 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 ding. It's breakfast for dinner, everybody. Where we do kind of a normal, what other podcasts would consider to be like a listener's mail section, where people submit things to us. So I'm going to begin with Tanner, who says, Die Hard or Lethal Weapon?
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Die Hard, greatest Christmas movie ever.
So I'm going to say Die Hard, of course. However, I think that if you look at the series as a whole, Lethal Weapon probably has more legs on it.
Yeah, I'll be totally honest.
I can agree with that.
I've actually never seen Lethal Weapon, which I've been told is apparently fairly shocking based on my taste in movies.
Fairly shocking. What do you mean?
I've just been told given like the movies I like, that Lethal Weapon is one that's fairly
it's shocking that you haven't seen it.
right.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, if you could ignore what Mel Gibson became, I think that Lethal Weapon is very fun. However, on the strength of just the first one, Die Hard has to stand.
Sure.
Where's the turning point for you? So, like, say if we just did the first 3 Die Hards versus the first 3 Lethal Weapons.
I think that
Same answer?
the first 3 Die Hards kind of mirror the Indiana Jones trilogy, where Die Hard 2 is the weakest, but also the most misunderstood, whereas Die Hard 3 is can probably stand with the first one.
Which one was 3?
Oh,
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one was.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson was pretty awesome, anyways.
So this is one of those things that I think of that isn't really a joke, but is more just like a setup that takes a million minutes to actually get to. But I really love the Lego version of Lethal Weapon 2. Once that guy gets his diplomatic immunity revoked.
Who wants to boo the joke?
I wasn't even going to facepalm that time.
I don't know, it's just something I think of. Just the phrase diplomatic immunity comes to my fucking broken brain. Jesus. So
you
yes.
have made Allison happy. Hi,
Also,
Allison.
we now have a title.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is shaking up to be a oh hi Allison, yes, it's shaping up to be a very title rich episode actually. But yeah, let's see here. Ben, what's Gordon say?
Title rich, content poor. No,
Jeez, man.
Just kidding. Gordon says, what real life setting or theme would you most like to see explored in a game?
That is tough.
Yeah. Okay, so one example, I thought this would always be a cool idea for a game, but kind of like a civilization game, but instead of picking a civilization, you pick a religion, and your job is to convert people in a neutral city to your religion. I thought that would be an interesting game type to explore religion.
That'd be interesting. Doing
of
different approaches, like an intellectual, reason-based versus like social welfare, initiatives, things like that. That could be cool.
Yeah.
And you're looking for something aside from black and white, right?
It would be more of like current commentary, I guess.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
and I'm assuming this would be without, being able to actually rain hellfire upon your enemies.
Not unless like that's your religion's like end of times, or like your winning perk or whatever.
I don't know why.
I just feel like I feel like that's a fairly effective thing. It's like I don't know.
So, I'm going to make this comparison, and I desperately want people to believe or to know that I don't have this bleak of a view on religion, but I'm kind of imagining that as a takeoff or a modification to Plague Inc. Where you
I can see what you're saying though.
Yeah, or just where you are kind of like you're getting energy and kind of changing and morphing and adapting as time goes on in order to get to more places. That's probably on a wider scale than you're thinking of, Ben. But like for some reason, I think I would really play that game.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Or make it like a version of like a democracy as well. That's another one. Huh? Yeah. I don't know. I'm pitching. Anybody else have one?
Sure. I would say, like, vague concept, I would love to see a Pinjak Silat game, the martial art I do. In terms of, like, overall, like, setting, I'd love to see something in, like, ancient, like, some of the more, like, obscure areas of the world, like ancient India.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of, like, a historical setting, I feel like you could make a really badass flight sim out of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
I would say for me, I would like to see something set in like ancient Mesopotamia. That's partially because I'm currently listening to a lecture series about the other side of history, which is about like the everyday people back throughout all ancient times, and we're on Mesopotamia. Also, I've gone to a bunch of different museum exhibits that are about things like Ur and some of the older cities, and some of the technology back then was actually better than some of the stuff that came way after the fact. So kind of interesting. But anyway, I would like to see something that's actually highly fact-based, that's really historical about those kinds of civilizations. Also, another thing I think would be actually kind of interesting to play, and this is another thing that's been on my mind lately, being a firefighter and fighting like stuff like the California wildfires and stuff. Like that's also something that's kind of interesting. Like I also... me with my audiobooks, I was listening to one about the formation of the Forestry Service and about all the great fires that happened right about the time that it was made and how they were trying to fight it. And there were pioneers and all different kinds of stuff. Like that would be really interesting. I mean, yeah, for modern day firefighting too, but back in the day, that would be a kind of awesome survival strategy type game, I think.
I mean, it's a very different game than what you're talking about, but like Firewatch has me really excited for that reason. It's not about fighting fire so much as it is about being out in the forest. Like that is a very romantic notion to me. Like just being somebody who is in those towers, away from everybody. Like what kind of person is drawn to that? But
it's kind of funny. This is sort of a tangent from the question since it's not real life, but thinking about like some of the discussions we've been having about like, or we've had periodically about like, a lot of games tending towards your verb is shoot dudes, and games like Splatoon and stuff like that. What the games I always thought would be, or thing that I thought would be interesting would be to do a game that was like a sci-fi game. Do like the Halo sort of like unstoppable cyborg thing, but apply that to what might firefighting look like in the future where you have all these technologies.
I have an answer here. It's going to sound like it's already been addressed with Far Cry 4, but one of my favorite books is The Snow Leopard by Peter Matheson. It's an amazing just journal of his travel through the kind of the Himalayas, like around not quite Nepal, but like northern India over there, and kind of a look at what happened to that region kind of as the 20th century hit it. In like the 1960s, and as kind of the natural grandeur was kind of slipping away to like overpopulation and stuff. So I'd like a game set in the Himalayas that wasn't you're shooting all of the all of the wildlife, or like Cursed Mountain where you're being attacked by Hindu ghosts.
Well, then you're basically looking at something more like 7 Years in Tibet, that kind of a thing.
Little bit, yeah. I just want to walk around in that, or like I fucking love in Uncharted 2 when you're going through the Himalayan village, right? Like that's one of my favorite set pieces in a game, and so like I'd like to see that writ large, or at least in that.
Does 80 Days ever scratch that itch? Like is that ever is that an option in that?
Not in particular. You're like most of the Indian tracks take you down through like South India.
That's too bad. That seems kind of like a lost opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, you're trying to go fast, so mountain climbing might not be the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hannibal would disagree with you.
Hannibal had elephants.
We could make a prequel game for this where it's like around the world in 880 days.
Around the world in eventually.
Over that horizon before we die and our kids have to make the journey.
Right.
Let's see here. David, what's Steven say?
Sure. Steven says, mine is simple. It's a simple request. David, can you say spiffy? I've been listening to all the old episodes lately, and it legitimately brings a smile to my face when you use that word. So yeah, I feel like things have been going well, so I can legitimately say I've been doing pretty spiffy, which I still stand by is defined by a state of having an excess of spiff.
Can you just give us a clean spiffy?
Spiffy.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And now you will be a ringtone.
Let's see here.
I feel like that could be a pretty good like text alert.
Yeah, a text alert, or like a tweet.
Tweet. All right, let's see here.
Yeah, you can't overtake the tweet.
Yeah. Let's see here. I should package that with the tweet and put it up for the patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Do it.
So let's see here, Jala. What does Sam say?
Sam says, what is your favorite unpopular game console? I leave the definition of unpopular to your discretion.
Sorry. All that came to mind was Hitler Cube. Yeah, that's terrible.
Wait, is this a thing?
No,
I'm joking.
It's most certainly not. In terms of the hours that I've gotten out of a system, I would have to say the hours I've gotten out of a system versus like how it is regarded today, the Sega Genesis.
Sega CD for me. That's even worse. I did play obviously Genesis a lot too because I had a Sega CD, but I played the hell out of my Sega CD. So
yeah,
I would say an iMac.
Oh yeah. I didn't realize you had an iMac. Like, what'd you play on that?
I don't. I just think it's a good computer, but it's an unpopular console.
Oh yeah. iMacs are still great. Like that Retina iMac is one of the like best computers you can get. Huh. David.
Yeah, I don't know. Can I say Dreamcast if I never actually owned one, but played all my friends' ones?
Oh yeah, you played a fuckload of Power Stone.
Yeah. Power Stones. That was like the last gasp of Sonic being good.
That's arguable, but I don't...
Okay. I thought the first Sonic game for Dreamcast was all right.
I had a lot of fun with it. It's just one of those things that like even though these were, especially like the Genesis more so, but like people played these games, like they owned these systems, but in hindsight, go back and listen to the episode of Retronauts I was on where it was determined that all Sega kids were garbage monsters.
Thanks, guys. I will unashamedly say I had Sega systems.
I had a Sega.
Me too.
I did not.
I still have my Sega.
Actually, for once I've owned, I would say the GameCube. What probably meets that definition. I would say, like, even for me, like, it was one of those systems I bought and then sort of regretted it because I didn't play that many games on it. But on the other hand, I now have a lot of times where I, like, look back nostalgically on, like, Animal Crossing and stuff like that and wish I could go back and play them.
Yeah, the GameCube was great.
Yeah.
Also, Dreamcast had Capcom vs. SNK 2, and I liked that a lot. And I didn't like the port that they put on PS2. So,
yeah, Dreamcast had
good titles.
Seaman.
Yeah, they had some good titles on there.
Yeah. Let's see here. David writes in saying, video game character you would want to spend an evening in any capacity with. That's tough.
I just want to say, like, I had a hard time trying to figure this one out, too. I'm like, I don't know. Like, who would I want to hang out with? And then I thought, I'd like to just, like, see GLaDOS talking to other people. Not to me, just jacking with other people, because that entertains me so much.
Have you played Poker Night?
You would like to just go to a roast where people walk up on stage and GLaDOS roast them?
Yes, that would be fun. I would enjoy that.
And that event would be called An Evening with GLaDOS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. There are no video game characters I want to bang, really.
Yeah.
I think that this is weird, but I think that me and Otacon would have a lot to talk about.
See, it's funny. I was actually going to call out. I really enjoy Ollie Brady replies to this with suggesting Otacon. He says, quote, I have some questions for him. He is a strange guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. I didn't even see that. I had to expand it to see there. So yes, I will say Otacon.
It would be bad, though, if at some point you got broken apart during dinner and you had to call out one another's names.
Otacon.
Otacon. Yeah.
Ben, how about you?
So I have a couple answers. I saw someone else posted Gordon Freeman, but Gordon Freeman, just to try and get him to talk.
He'd be like those London Palace guards.
Yeah. Or in the same universe, G-Man, to try and figure out what he's talking about. Or probably my most serious answer, Morden from Mass Effect would be awesome.
Oh, dip. Yeah, Morden would be great.
Talk to Morden, yeah.
Oh, that Mort from Mort from Planescape Torment. That would be fun. Mm-hmm. He would be fun to hang out with.
Yeah, these are all really good. Huh. We got more out of that than I thought we would.
Yeah, I would say for me, ignoring more questionable definitions of in any capacity, I'd probably go with the. I think like having a beer with Nathan Drake would probably be a pretty entertaining evening.
Yeah.
Assuming I didn't, get shot and dragged to the Himalayas.
What's the number, Nathan? Nathan, what's the number? You know the number, Nathan, don't you? Nathan, what's the number? Do they haunt
What's
you,
that
Nathan?
from? What's that from?
No, I'm just asking Nathan how many people he's killed. He has to. He knows.
Oh,
He knows.
See, I don't get that whole thing.
It's ludonarrative dissonance.
But like, it's really not, because the narrative is every Pulp Fiction hero ever,
Yep.
which is
However, Indiana Jones mostly just punch people out.
yeah, I know.
They shot that one
just-
guy.
It just always bothered me that Uncharted was the one people picked for to like call that out on, considering it's both no worse than any other number of things, and in a lot of ways is more justified because it is explicitly meant to be that kind of Pulp Fiction that's kind of how it's written.
Well, I feel
I
like
know.
that's kind of a new thing within games too, is where the enemy will always ask about how many people you've killed to get to that point, because that's kind of a trope in a game, is you kill hundreds of people to get to the boss battle.
Yeah, I'm totally willing to like. I'm not. It's not a legit beef that I have with Uncharted.
yeah.
It's like it's a genre stuff, right? It's the kind of game they wanted to make.
Right.
Also, GLaDOS and the turrets in concert.
Again, an evening with GLaDOS. It would be it would be a variety show.
I know, it would be so great. I would love it. I love the turrets. I have like one of those USB turrets that lights up and talks to you when it senses you that you're there, and it does stuff. I have one of
You're
those, and I have
adjusting the files. Yeah.
One of my coworkers has on her desk a turret that is rainbow colored. And like every day, I go like, hey, did you have the so and so ready? I just kind of want to wait until he's not looking and then just take it because it's badass.
I have a couple of little blind box turrets on my desk. One of which is tiger striped. So
Have you seen the guy that built a portal
Actual
turret
turret?
for his capstone project for mechanical engineering?
No,
that's
I haven't
awesome.
seen that.
No, I haven't.
It's got a Nerf gun, and it does movement tracking, so it'll like follow
Awesome.
you, bullseye you, and will do all the dialogue. Yeah,
Does it say I'm
I
sorry?
love it.
I think so.
Fantastic.
I don't blame you.
That's
Yes.
that's actually I have the turrets as one of my ringtones on my phone, so
That
Hello?
really ranks up
Are
there.
you there?
See, that really ranks up there, and I think this is it's something that Valve does really well. I really love the idea of sound as kind of as an alert / as like Pavlovian response.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of all the low ammo beeps in Half-Life, the line going dead when you kill an enemy, the head crab sounds. I really like that. That's something Valve really does well.
Same thing with Metal Gear, actually. Like the fact that
Really?
they've kept that consistent throughout the entire series. And even though those sounds really don't fit in 5, it's totally there. Yeah.
Do you mean like the blink?
Yeah, the brrr, or the there's a shortened version of the codec sound, but also the all clear, bing kind of sound.
I feel like that at some point needs to be a free play question. Like, everyone do your best impersonation of the Metal Gear Alert sound.
We have somebody in my office who has the codec sound as their text message alert.
What is the codec sound?
Brrr.
Oh, okay, the phone thing. Yes.
Yeah, and every time it happens, say Colonel. Let's see here, Ben. What does let's see here, Ollie say?
Ollie says, we all like video games, parentheses, someone should make a podcast for people like us. That's our next podcast, people who like video games, not love it.
Yeah, it's a less intense version of this one.
Have you ever lost faith in the medium? And if so, what game brought you back in? For me, 2009 was a low point. Then I played Arkham Asylum. David.
Spiffy!
Okay, cool.
I completely lost where you're going with that for a sec.
That's fine. I can totally agree, though. I would say that I don't know if there's a specific low point for me, but the advent of pay to play games and like kind of mobile games that are primarily focused on like addiction based tactics and not gameplay elements or like narrative elements. I wasn't really a fan of a lot of those, but I would say a combination of like the Arkham series or Uncharted series or anything Naughty Dog does makes me pretty happy.
Yeah.
Or gives me faith for the future.
Mm-hmm. I would say like let's say the time period between 2003 and 2006 was kind of a lull for me because of, high school and stuff like that. Like was pretty distracted from games in general. And also like, I feel like with a couple of exceptions, like notably like Metal Gear Solid 3 coming out in 2004 or Half-Life in 2004, I guess that was all pretty good. But like just in general, like late high school for me, I just fell out of love as that generation met its kind of like mid to late doldrums, and as the Xbox 360 came out and that generation didn't get up to speed. And I'd say I didn't really like get back into playing like a bunch of new games until like, I don't know, it was like even beyond when oh man, it might have been Rock Band actually that really brought it back. Huh. That is way too wide of a window for me to say that, but like for a long time there, I was mostly playing old stuff, like playing Shadow of the Colossus with you guys in in the dorms and things. So,
but that was relatively recent when we played.
It was like 2005, I suppose, or like Silent Hill 2. Like there was a period of time there where all I did was just play the Silent Hill games over and over and over again.
There's no shame in
that. I remember that.
In my case, it was when I was in college full-time, in honors college, also working full-time, also maintaining a relationship. During that time, I didn't have any money to buy new systems and stuff, so we actually just went back, and this was still when you could get a bunch of retro games in stores pretty easily, resale, so like cheapo old games. So we did a lot of retro gaming back at that time. And then I popped really back into stuff when I played Morrowind, and then subsequent to that, when I popped into Guild Wars, the first Guild Wars, I had another lull where I stopped playing basically anything for a while other than just like, replaying some old stuff. And then when I got on Steam, that's when I went bloop and started playing again. And, ever since I've been playing all different kinds of stuff constantly.
Yeah. Let's see here. So we've run up on time for this section, but there's one question that I want to answer because I feel very strongly about it. Christopher Schlee writes in, what is totally cooler, skeleton archers or skeletons that throw their bones at you? And go. So, go ahead.
You can say yours, but I know my answer.
Okay. I think that there's a contingency. If the skeleton is throwing their bones at me, can they reassemble on the other side? Because if so, that is an innovative way for a skeleton to get closer to me.
It would take him a while, though.
And how do you get that last part over, too?
Yeah, like I don't think his hand would make the trip.
No, it can crawl their like thing from Adam's Family.
Yeah, that's true.
What about like if it's just like swarm form? They just kind of fly at you in mass.
That's badass. Like do like the skeleton dervishes in Dark Souls. Yep.
Yeah, so, I would have to say skeletons that can throw their bones at you because they're making. I think it's cooler on a conceptual level because they're making a sacrifice with the attack, and so they can't just they have to think about what they're doing. Whereas like skeleton archer, if they have a whole bunch of arrows. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, go ahead, David.
I feel like skeleton archer just because I don't know that suggests some sort of like sinister pre-planning on the whole thing. And like they were left here, like as some sort of like dark guardian to take out intruders or something.
Yeah, he had a job in the past. You want to know that they can support themselves, not just magically by having their bones stand on end. showing Jala.
Well, having a skeleton that throws their bones at you, like that makes them less and less viable unless they happen to be like super magical teleporting skeletons. If they are teleporting skeletons, badass, that one. But if not, then skeleton archer.
Please, teleskeletons. Teletons.
Teletons. Sure.
Okay,
So-
I'm sorry. Go ahead. So if they are teletons, then
yes, we are go. And
Okay,
if not, then I would prefer an archer.
yeah.
That also implies some
And
type
if
of
not,
skill.
you're sad. I have no desire to speak to you anymore.
What if they're really good at throwing their bones? Like they can take 2 of their bones and kind of use it like with what people hunted with mammoths and like kill people with that single bone and then go get it back. Would you be okay with it then?
Or could they like ricochet them off walls and like you think they missed, but then it hits you?
Well, now
Like
we're
a
being
boomerang?
unrealistic.
Yeah,
It's a
bonerangs.
Yeah, you use your rib. Easy.
Only Australian skeletons.
In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, they had Marrow with the bonerang as a skill. She could throw that.
So that is settled once and for all. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. I'm going to harvest these questions and put them into a form. And if you want to submit stuff like as it goes along, because the multiplayer is in the process of changing and evolving, then go ahead and go and use the contact form on Duckfeed.tv/contact and send these our way. We may do, we may end up doing more of this. But thank you, everybody, for participating. If you'd like to see these prompts, go to facebook.com/thelevelpodcast, like us, and they go up on Tuesday afternoons and evenings.
I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get to Sean's just because I actually had a trippy ass nightmare about that last night.
About what it looks like inside of a Pokeball?
Well, in more the implications of the fact that Pokeballs appear to exert at least a minor form of mind control, and particularly what the implications would be if you started, using that, say, on people.
Ugh.
And they teach animals learned helplessness.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's upsetting. And on that bleak note,
The grind.
now it is time for the grind, where we talk about what we've been playing over the past week or so. I'm afraid, Ben, that I need to insist we tag team at the start here,
Okay.
because
fine.
we got to headline.
Okay. Do you want me to start off with the intro to the tag team?
Sure.
Okay. So I played Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes
Oh,
last week.
Yay!
I had not played that
Wait,
before.
multiple
yes,
zeros?
yes.
Multiple
Multiple
zeros, singular ground. All right. So I was excited about the new Metal Gear Solid, which is what we will forthwith tag team. But I had asked one of my coworkers if it was worth it to play through Ground Zeroes. He recommended heartily that I do. I did. I heartily recommend that you do not play that game. I do not think it's worth $20. You could totally watch a YouTube video and get the same experience, I think. But yeah, I don't know. You played it, didn't you, Cole? Like
I did, yeah.
when it came out. Yeah.
It was good because I didn't have the Phantom Pain waiting for me right there. So that would be a thing. Like
Yeah, playing it would really be an act of love in that situation.
Yeah.
So I really, I enjoyed it because it gave me an introduction to this really cool new stealth system. Without the larger framework of the Phantom Pain, I can totally see where it'd be a little bit underwhelming. But if you look at it as though it is 2015's or 2014 or whenever it came out, that version of the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo, where they're just kind of showing you, hey, check out all this badass stuff we can do, then it's totally worth it. But why would you play the demo if you can play the full thing? That, and I kind of wonder how much more powerful the beginning of 5 would have been if I didn't know what immediately preceded it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I do think the story is important. So I would, say watch a YouTube video or read what happens, at Ground Zeroes. But yeah, I think if it was $5, I think I would be totally happy with it. But
You should have let me know. I would have sent you my copy of it.
that's no problem.
Okay.
But
I think I bought
anyway.
it for $5 on Steam. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
sales, man.
yeah, I know.
Oh,
Well. But that led me to Metal Gear Solid 5, which I've played, and now you have played.
Yep.
We have played. Yeah.
How many? So I put in about 17 hours.
I put in about like 3 or 4, so
Okay.
not as much.
Okay, cool. What did you think of the opening?
The opening is good. I don't want to spoil anything out of it. So
No, really?
Shocking.
yeah, I know. I would say it's similar in structure to Snake Eater opening in terms of like what it accomplishes, or like, but
Yeah.
it's different. So
God, that song when you're stuck there. It's literally the first one. So you wake up in a hospital bed.
oh yeah.
You
Okay,
wake up in a hospital bed, and there's an amazing cover of David Bowie's "The Man Who Sold the World," and everything is kind of like out of focus, and you're just trapped there. And the entire opening is just a what?
Hey,
No.
come on, let's not give too much away.
But no, I need to talk about the themes though, because it stands in stark contrast to what you ultimately get to, which is like the entire opening is like a master class in how to do helplessness as gameplay, which makes it one of the most effective horror games I've played, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it's more interactive than I think people are giving it credit for. And it does kind of come across like Kojima as being a little bit of a troll insofar as that, like the opening is unlike anything else I've seen in the game so far in terms of the amount of control that you have. Yeah. So did you get to Afghanistan? Like, did you get to the point where it opens up?
I did. And so I'm maybe like 2 checkpoints into that, if that makes sense.
But you're there and you're still being guided through by Shalashaska.
By somebody else.
Okay. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Wait, no, wait. Maybe the same person.
Yeah, no, awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's literally the first hour of the game.
Yeah, I know. Come on.
Okay.
It's like a present,
Yeah, I suppose. But
it's like Gattaca under the Christmas tree. You don't.
Wait, what?
Nothing.
yeah, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that explained.
That was way back when I think I confessed on this podcast that I opened up a copy of Gattaca on VHS as one of my Christmas presents, and then I wrapped it back up.
Okay.
So that's a very, very deep reference.
Okay, yeah. So like, what do you think of like the open world style play?
Yeah, it is interesting that the approach to this is it's more of an open world stealth. Yeah, so instead of it being like you're on one map and there's like maybe 4 different doors that will lead you to other parts of the map, and you kind of have to keep track of where everything is, kind of like Zelda 64 or something like that. It's more like Hyrule Field in Zelda 64, where it's just wide open, so you can kind of go from place to place at your leisure. But,
Wait, see, I thought that's how 3 was.
No, 3 was very much like, here are a bunch of corridors and we're going to skin them to look like jungle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this map, if it was in first person and you were driving around a Jeep, it would feel a little bit like a Far Cry kind of situation.
Sweet.
Insofar as there are like outposts and guard depots and things like that that are on the road and separating these kind of like bigger set pieces. And what's really great is you can just wander around, but that's not really what it feels like the game wants you to do. In between missions, you call your helicopter down and you get in there, and that is your aerial command center, and you can select what mission you want to do because you have somebody who is working to get you work in order to chase down what you're trying to chase down. And instead of just saying like, okay, here's this wide open world, you select a mission and it gives you the goal and it gives you landing zones, but also it kind of like cordons off different parts of the area. And you can see that this is a wide open thing that is designed with distinct fields of play. And there's a lot of thought put into the scenario of kind of like going from your starting point to where you end up. And where you end up is almost always some kind of massive base or a mountain outpost, or later on, I don't know how much of a spoiler this is because there's a map in the case, but like there's a whole other map you can go to. But like don't be turned off by the fact this is open world if you don't like open world kind of stuff, because if you just play it from the aerial command center like that, what it's doing is giving you something that is kind of akin to Peace Walker, which is these bite-sized bits that in and of themselves feel like Metal Gear gameplay. Except when you get spotted, the game doesn't turn awful. Like, it is fun to be spotted and try and get away and try and deal with people. Because when somebody sees you, you have an opportunity, like everything goes into slow motion and you can take them out. And if you're walking around like a tranquilizer pistol, that is kind of like a free save a little bit.
Yeah, it is very nice that they did that, but yeah.
How do you like the marking system?
Yeah, so that's another aspect that's very similar to Far Cry, where once you spot an enemy, it'll have a symbol above them, and you can see them wherever they go, even if they're through walls. And so I'm not completely sold on it yet. And also with the open world, I haven't got enough into it that I'm not completely sold on it yet. But I'm still interested to see how it pulls it off. So
I was skeptical too, just because I tend to like my Metal Gears more focused. However, like the rhythm feels satisfying enough. So like the marking is great because that encourages a definite loop where you find a high spot over a base and you spot as many people as you can. You're actually surveying the place and making a plan of action before you get down and dirty and go in there. And that gives you a definite advantage by knowing where everybody is and, you know, what their movements are.
Sure.
And I agree. Like I was skeptical of the open world until I figured out what the size and shape of it was and just kind of how it does slice everything up into discrete units. I'm a little bit bummed out that there doesn't seem to be a lot of story. Like I'm a person who really likes the extended cutscenes, like of the Metal Gear Solid 3. I think 4 went a little bit overboard. However, there is enough of that Kojima weirdness there that I'm getting what I want out of it.
So I had not played Peace Walker, but I had read up on it in the meantime to try and catch myself up. I'll try not to spoil anything about it, but there is a character in Peace Walker called Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And so there's plenty of things. I've only played the game for maybe 3 hours or so, but there are plenty of things in this game that are equally ridiculous to that. So yeah.
So it's still there. It's just not getting in the way of you kind of doing all this cool stuff. Like I can't, I've painted my mother base bright pink and I am, flying my helicopter and blaring Maneater by Hall & Oates over the PA to like just completely demoralize my enemies. Like it's really great with all those little touches.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm serious. Oh, here he goes. Yep, I'm doing it. I don't know. It's so good. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And another thing that's amazing about it is, unlike other Metal Gear games where kind of like you need to invest the time because it's going to make you sit through a bunch of codec stuff, you're a silent protagonist and there is no like radio kind of things. And each mission is its own little discrete section. So you can go in there and just play this for a half hour at a time and either do a main mission or a side ops thing and and then accomplish what you need to accomplish.
That's pretty cool.
That, and you're not forced to play as boss in this, or big boss rather. You can capture people and then train them up, and a lot of missions you can actually use some of the prisoners that you get by attaching a hot air balloon to them and sending them up into the sky, the Fulton recovery system, which you can also do to like sheep.
Okay.
and as they're rocking up, they go Mah! But you can actually play like as a lady. It's really cool, like going around doing all this stuff and like holding people up and saying, just like stick them up, where are they, like stuff. It's just so good. There's so much to it. I've been playing it for like 16 hours and my percent complete is like it's 7 or 8, something like that. This is like the
meaty.
best open world game I've played in a long, long time.
Awesome.
So good. I don't know that I have anything else to add about it because everything I would want to say is spoiler. So
I don't think I have anything else I want to say because anything else I say is delaying me playing that game.
Very well then. So that is all I've been playing. I put a lot of time into that. I've been playing like a little bit of like Steins Gate on the PS Vita, but I'm not ready to talk about it just because it's not. I haven't played very much. But that is a thing. And in that regard, I'm going to throw over to you, Jala.
Okay. Well, first things first, I have played a bit more of Abyss Odyssey right before the show with Sam Bear. So, hi, Sam. We actually got pretty far. He picked up the controls quickly, and we were able to roll through a good chunk of it. It was just on sale on Steam for like $2.99 with a free weekend. You could just try it out. So, if you guys are like waiting for a sale, seriously, just like put it on your wish list and just wait. It'll go on sale for like nothing. Anyway, I absolutely want to co-op it more, and there are a lot of listeners I know that have it now because of that sale. So, hit me up, tell me things, ping me. And by ping me, I mean message me on Twitter or on Facebook or on the Slack channel, something that makes a pinging noise on my phone to tell me that somebody wants my attention.
But only a pinging noise. God help you if it makes a honk.
Yeah, God help you if it
spiffy
goes
noise.
spiffy or tweet. Yeah.
Well, we already know that I have lots of different sounds on my phone already, so I'm really not worried about what sound it makes as long as it makes a noise at me. So, also, of course, I've been playing more Guild Wars 2. In addition to playing through some of the fractal dungeons and jumping puzzles with some of the other guildies, I've also been rolling in some of the higher level areas, both solo and with some of the people who dusted off their Guild Wars 2 account because we made a guild. So I 100%ed the entire world map. I have the entire world. Also, I'm like working on getting my higher level armor. We're probably going to do a story dungeon for the first time, most likely sometime right after this episode drops. I'm guessing sometime this weekend, if we can get enough people scraped up together, we'll probably be able to run it depending upon leveling and stuff. Yeah. So that'll be a thing. So
how do story dungeons work? Is there no XP?
There's XP, there's rewards and whatnot. The reason why it's called a story dungeon, there's two different modes to the main dungeons in the game. There is the story mode, which continues the personal storyline and tells you like basically what's going on and fleshing out, what's happening here, as opposed to like framing, within the context of the entire world events. Explorable mode has several different paths opened up with a bunch of different bosses in each area, and it typically is a lot harder. You have to be 5 levels higher than when you do the story mode in order to do explorable mode. So, like that's a thing where you're kind of meant to go back into the same dungeon over and over again to, get to these other areas that are harder to get to. And I have played since
Destiny.
Beta. Well, I played since beta, and I still haven't gotten through all of the areas in the first Ascalonian Catacombs like dungeon. I haven't even gotten through all of that yet. So,
so there are the catacombs.
Yeah, the Ascalonian Catacombs are part of the first dungeon. So, yeah,
Okay.
To answer your way earlier question from the other day, David, yes, they're in there.
Sorry for viewers. when we were playing last time, one of the things I asked was whether the catacombs from the first game, which were one of my favorite locations, actually showed up in the game. So I realized that makes no sense to anyone that didn't happen to be there for that conversation.
Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, level up. That's all. So those are two things that I've been playing. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else on the Guild Wars 2 tip before I move off to the other thing I played.
Sure. Just a couple things. The fractals are really cool. They're basically it's basically sliders. Where you go in and one of the Asura, which are like little Stitch creatures, has created a device to send you to alternate dimensions. And so there are all these kind of fairly small what if dungeons. So one of them appears to be set in like the Asura's like main city, except it's all like abandoned and post-apocalyptic, and the one remaining member has converted several mechanized golems into cats that you have to fight, and that are presumably keeping him company. we played another one. There's another one where like it takes place entirely underwater, and you either follow a path where it's like through the completely black depths, and you have to pick up this glowing kelp periodically, otherwise the light goes out and you get mobbed by piranhas. And then the other path in that one, you actually turn into a dolphin. And I think we might mention that before. But yeah. So those are really cool. It's also kind of cool. Got on and played with Chase Greenlee, who is one of our both one of our viewers and a good friend from high school that I haven't spoken to in 10 years. Okay. So that was one of those things where it's like we got on and all of a sudden I'm like, dude, what have you been doing for 10 years? So that's pretty awesome.
Cool. So, anything else on that?
No, that was kind of my dump. I
have a side question.
Sure.
Sliders or Quantum Leap?
Oh, Quantum Leap! Come on.
In terms of which is better or which is this more like?
I will not add any other information.
Okay. Which is this more like? Sliders, and I think I've only seen I've seen a couple episodes of Sliders and only like half of one of Quantum Leap. Wow. So I'm going to have to go with Sliders.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Sliders too. Sorry.
Okay, well, moving on. Okay, so the last thing that
the better opening.
The last has the better lots of things. Go ahead, Jala.
I used to always cry in Quantum Leap because I was so sad that he could never go home.
Yeah. Aww. And when he did, he was always fucked up. Yeah.
I know, and I was always sad every episode because I was hopeful. But then again, I'm a weepy lady, but you don't know that. All right. So anyway,
they would always preview that he wasn't going to go home at the end of the episode, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he would hope that the next leap would be the leap home.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, he never gave up hope. You can't give up hope for him.
I think I can. I've given up hope on a lot of people.
That's very depressing, and that leads me into Happify. That's the last thing I've been doing. Okay, so this isn't a game per se, but it includes games as part of its regimen. This is something kind of related to those social consciousness, mindfulness type of whatever. And for anybody who doesn't already know from or have gathered already from listening to me, I jokingly call myself a drugless hippie. Because I'm pretty feel good, that kind of a thing, pretty happy, whatever. I try to be as mindful as I can. So this is an app that is based on science. It's on research and created with leading psychologists, neurologists, teachers. It has activities and games designed to help you overcome negative thoughts, anxiety, and everyday stress. Optimism, it's been proven through various studies over the years that optimism can be learned. And so this is basically, meant to try to reconnect you with positive thoughts because we dwell so often on negative thoughts. And everybody on the podcast, I think, has been going through something, but I've been going through some stuff in the last, several months. And so it's been something that I've taken to just because I'm trying to kind of pick up the pieces and move on with my life. So there are a slew of other apps and websites that basically do the same thing. So it's not like this is the only thing. This just happens to be the one that I downloaded. There's even an annual conference about this genre of app/game called Wisdom 2.0 about using technology to, improve a person's, state of awareness about their own situation or whatnot.
Their mindset.
Yeah, their mindset. There you go. Anyway, the activities are geared towards helping you focus attention on positive ideas and thoughts while reminding you about things in your life that you may not generally think about, even if they're kind of obvious. An example would be like listing 3 things that happened this week that you were grateful for. They don't have to be life-altering. They can be like, hey, I had a good meal. I had a good nap. The weather's not that bad. I took a nice walk. I had a great thought. Somebody said something nice. Cool. Also applying the same concept to a stressful or negative situation that you have to deal with or have dealt with in the past, reframing it and saying, well, what are the good things you can take out of this? What's the silver lining on this dark cloud? The games include things like finding hidden objects in an idyllic scene, which focuses your attention on, like a positive image, like a nice, peaceful thing. Tapping on hot air balloons that have positive words on them as they float around the screen, kind of dodging all the negative words and again, trying to get you focused on good ideas and things. Another is you select negative feelings represented by little grime balls that have signs that say like anxiety, loneliness, that kind of thing. And then you use a slingshot to knock them off of poles and stuff like that to get rid of them. So that one's kind of... Yeah, it's kind of like, that's also kind of the game mechanic to an extent of the Bias Breaker game that I mentioned earlier, because that's about okay, you shoot these blobs that have stereotypes and then they go away. It's the same kind of thing.
Just like a visualization aid.
Yeah. And the app also has a whole feed of positive news stories about various stuff like cute animal videos or things about charity or mindfulness, loving kindness, those kinds of positive reports in the news without any of the negative spiel that you usually get when you're also looking at news in general. All of the activities and games have links that provide explanations of why it helps and what studies helped conclude, these things about it. It is free, but it also has a paid model, with the paid model offering more feedback on the strengths, all of your strengths and more activities to play. But I've only been playing the free model and I don't feel gypped by it. You have a limited number of activities you can perform in the given track, because basically you pick a track that is coping with negative thoughts or mindfulness for beginners or something like that, and it takes you through specific activities geared towards that idea. So anyway, you can still play the things, they just won't count towards your track, basically. So and although I know it sounds kind of hokey or cheesy, in my own experience, honestly, as long as you are legitimately open to trying it out, it actually does over time affect your mood and your reactions, because just in using it, the little bit I've been more aware about my own disposition, and I'm able to adjust how I act accordingly. And I've only been playing it for a week or so. The first time that it asked me to list positive things about my week, I actually was kind of taken aback, and I kind of sat there well, I know there's good things that happened this week and I can, say them if you ask me, but to intentionally think on it and focus all of my attention on that rather than worrying about the negative things was kind of refreshing and kind of neat. So I kind of consider myself to be a jaded optimist in that I idealize things, but I'm also I've also had a lot of bad experiences that, temper me and make me very uncertain and cautious about stuff, depending upon the level of BS I'm shoveling. So while I don't think that you can always be 100% positive, what these little I end up playing the little hot air balloon game quite a bit, and I actually physically feel better after I'm done playing it, and that's kind of neat. And I like this is just that it exists, I guess, but I know it's not something that everybody would buy into or be able to get a benefit out of, if that makes sense. So here's a question for you. How long have you been playing it? About a week.
About a week, okay.
How often do you play it each day?
How often do I play it each day? Well, you can pop in there a few times a day, but basically every 24 hours it unlocks new stuff for your track. So although you can go in there and play the games without it counting towards anything on the free model, you can go through and finish up stuff for your track once a day. So I'll usually pop in there maybe a couple of times a day. I usually do the stuff for my track right before I go to sleep at night. I think because that helps my mind from wandering off to different stuff. So,
yeah. My worry when I hear about stuff like this, and I believe you that it's that it's had a positive effect so far, is any kind of gamification. It works well in principle as you think about it leading up to it, but you have the thing that bothers me is that you eventually develop antibodies, or the effect wears off over time, or more broadly put, no matter how good a game is, you tend to become bored with it. And so kind of tying up the idea of like having a positive outlook or, any broad notion of mindfulness with something that is mechanical like this, I would worry about myself looking at that and not being able to like adapt those skills into the way that I exist and see things before I get bored of whatever is enforcing it.
Oh, I understand. But the reason why I decided to even bring this up at all is because I had also talked earlier about like the social consciousness thing, and that kind of ties in with this because I think they're kind of the same ilk. Yep. They kind of, they serve the same function of trying to help you raise your awareness about some aspect of your life or your, how you approach different situations.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to bring it up.
Do they point you to kind of like secondary resources for some of the principles that they're talking about? Because like one of the most helpful books I've ever read was like Mindfulness in Plain English. And even though I don't, I don't maintain a practice like of actually sitting and breathing, like off and on I will. Like I'll go about a week of like, I'm going to set aside 15 minutes a day. But even coming away from that, it's been helpful to be like, oh, you know what? I'm feeling really anxious right now, and I should probably just sit and like focus on my breath for like a second in the midst of all this chaos, like to get it there. I would love it if this game served as like a jumping off point for stuff like that could be applied elsewhere.
It has meditation segments. It has stuff where literally you're only supposed to basically just like look at this idyllic scene and just not do anything else, just breathe and stare at this, waves lapping on the shore or something like that. It has other types of things, so it kind of introduces you to different activities, not just the let me report in or let me play this little game real quick, but other things like that. It also has, as I said before, news articles, not just like cute animals and things like that, but about ways to, improve your life and build on that kind of, knowledge base, if you will. So like it has articles and stuff like that link you to it. They have credits for all the different psychologists and, therapists and neuroscientists and teachers and stuff. There's a lot of authors who have written books on mindfulness and things like that who have contributed to this. So, it does have other things that you can access through it. So,
yeah.
And I definitely think that it's not something that I will play indefinitely. Like I'm always going to be playing it, but as kind of like a refresher, kind of like how you were saying, where I feel kind of stressed out, I think I need to go back and fiddle with the Happify app a little bit and get my mind back on track the way I want it or whatever. That I think it serves its time and place, but I don't think it's kind of perpetual, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the social awareness games. Like I don't think that after I were to play something like Decisions That Matter or whatever, that I would want to go back and keep hovering on it, Like I would play it every once in a while, but I wouldn't be constantly messing with it, Like sure. Once I've gotten the message out of it and I've gotten what the game is offering me, I don't know how much more there is to add.
Yeah. Well, I'd be curious to see how your relationship with it evolves.
Oh yeah, like I am too, because like I said, some of the activities and stuff are actually kind of interesting and kind of cool, and there's a little bit of a variety to it, but a lot of them do follow the same kind of formula. So I don't know if it's going to be like, redundant and overplayed at one point, or if it's going to constantly present something new as I go through different tracks, but we'll see.
Yeah. And is that all for you?
Yep.
All right. Let's see here. Who do we have left? David, how about you?
Sure. Well, now on to something much more negative.
Satisfy.
Yes, I've started playing Happify. No, yeah. So, I beat Dying Light. Overall for the vast majority of the game, I think was really good. going into the final mission, I was really looking forward to coming on the show and basically saying like, oh yeah, they learned their lesson, they made good. Unfortunately, they made such a incredibly bad final mission that I'm going to have to disagree with Cole's previous statements on this podcast. I believe the ending of a game can ruin the rest of the game retroactively.
Go on.
Well, basically, the final mission, you're going up against the main big bad guy, and you go in, and basically it sets you to this, sets you doing this parkour sequence that is just, you're being chased by a horde of like unstoppable zombies, and you have to do this series of jumps and stuff like that at full speed, and if you get hit by an enemy, you lose all your momentum, so you can't make the jumps necessarily, or at least easily, and of course you keep getting hit by the zombies because now you're walking, and it's dramatically, like, just uncomparably more difficult than any previous part of the game. And
so you have to do like a flawless run through.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's just incredibly annoying. I mean, just we're talking like I probably died 30 or 40 times, something like that, trying to beat it. I'm trying to think if this was this one. I think maybe at one point the game glitched out and thought it was night, which you don't lose experience if you die at night. But I think that is earlier. Anyways, and then once you beat that, it then gets to another parkour segment where basically this one is more of a like tricks, like kind of climbing segment. So it's more of a lot of like, move along this, completely narrow beam that you have to balance on, or like precision jump from like, bar to bar, and oh, there's an exploding zombie that kills you in one shot. Guess you'll have to try again. So it's just really, really poorly done. And apparently I actually had a fairly good run of it because apparently there's actually a lot of glitches in this section that some people will like do the right thing and still die. I didn't happen to have that problem. And then finally you get to the final boss. The whole game, despite like the storyline overall being fairly poor,
So perhaps we should say spoiler alert in case anyone wants to play the game, but
I guess what I'm trying to say is like it really builds up this ending to finally get this reckoning and rain perdition upon this enemy that's been dogging you the entire game. And I had channeled my inner Pulp Fiction and crafted a custom katana that I intended to use for great justice, and this whole thing, and by turning the ending into a quick time event and then not actually having an ending, it basically ruins all of that. Which kind of retroactively ruins the entire game, because that's a combination of like that being the main, like the really only strong point of the story is how much you hate this villain and want to stand against him and defeat him. And similarly, you have to go through a lot of shit to get to this point. And, kind of the justification is, you're going towards this with the promise that eventually there'll be a reckoning, and just there isn't.
Maybe it's like a meta game where the game becomes the villain then.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe they out-meta me. But I know. I would say very much this went from being a game that I would say, like, I would have very positive things to say to being a game that like I would rank as just slightly above the Stanley Parable and the original Dead Island.
So would you say you meta'd your match? Yeah, that is exceedingly low praise from you.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see developer commentary just because it almost seems like they went out of their way. Like, it almost seems like they tried to make the ending bad. I would say, like, honestly, my overall, if I had to give a read on it, looking at the original Dead Island and then this, I feel like I feel like, different companies have different personalities and, different strengths and weaknesses. And, I feel like there definitely are some strengths in this game and even in Dead Island, but I feel like the weakness of both games, in my opinion, is the developers seem to not have any awareness of what game they're making. In terms of, like, it seems to me like the game they think they're making is not the game they're actually making, and therefore they end up tripping up by, trying to do things with the story that the story hasn't justified.
So are you ready to stop giving these guys second chances?
Yeah, honestly, I think for me, this is probably about it. The only scenario I could see where I really gave it another chance would be, if they came out with one and the reviews were, very explicitly like, hey, we know they screwed things up in the past, but, we can't believe it, but they, made one that's good. Kind of the way, Treyarch, initially kind of was the B team and then eventually, started making really awesome games. It would have to be something like that where there was very explicitly a change that happened.
I don't know. So they just have to find a better developer to supplant?
Yes. They...
I would play a game by this developer if it was another developer.
Well, I mean, what it sounds like, it sounds like the primary sin that they did was they didn't do anything that they earned, or were building towards. And also from a gameplay stance, it was less of a final exam about things it was teaching you and more of a demand for perfection that otherwise it was not asking you to meet in the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think that, and I think also, I think in general, a lot of games need to learn this, but particularly this one is to learn kind of the Half-Life 2 lesson of, like, in certain games, the final level should be a victory lap.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't.
Well, I'm sorry you didn't have a good time with it. So shortly here, do you have anything else that you've been playing?
I've started playing Splatoon. So far, like, the game and its presentation and, like, its thing is completely delightful. Although I don't have a lot to say about right now, just because I'm fairly new. About the only, like, relevant or interesting thing I'd say is I really enjoy Nintendo's, like, weird, like, pictogram, like, allowing people to submit drawings as chat.
Mm-hmm.
A number of them are really, really excellent and witty, and I want to know how they filter out inappropriate ones.
The dick filter, yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't seen anything really questionable.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the second somebody put that idea on the whiteboard, like, what if people could send them drawings? Like, I just pictured somebody just leaping in front of them. No! But it stuck the landing. Like, I haven't seen any screenshots. Usually you see the screenshots of that stuff pop up, but you really don't. You just see funny things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of them are, legitimately, pretty witty. A lot of them, artistic talent is evident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm out.
Drops the mic.
Well, yeah, definitely let us know as you do, like, more multiplayer and stuff, but I'm, it's good that you're having fun with it. Yeah, we need to close this out.
Sure, definitely.
Did you all want to button it up?
Shut it down.
the credits.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for listening to level number 120. We really appreciate it. I'm going to keep the admin short. So just go ahead and like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/thelevelpodcast. And also, there's the iTunes ratings and reviews, which we mention all the time, but that's because they help us out a lot. Is there anything I am missing?
The Slack is pretty cool.
Yeah. So that is open for patrons. So go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv to join these cool chats that are happening in our Slack channel. It is a great time. It's been a wonderful addition to the network. So I am Kole Ross at Kole Ross on Twitter.
I'm David Mysmith at Mysmith777 everywhere, but especially Twitter.
I am always Jala-chan.
I am sometimes Ben Merkel.
And until a couple of seconds from now, stay tuned to hear us talk about the titles. All right, so I've got three. Malaysia, diplomatic immunity, bonerang.
I also
Two
submit
things.
drug list hippie.
If you do Malaysia, could you do it like M''Lasia?
Oh, most certainly.
All right. One other one I'd submit is, what was it, like Teleton?
Teletons.
Teletons.
I feel like that works better in audio than in text.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is, but I'm going to put that in the list for the Slack people.
I'm good with Malaysia or Bonerang.
I want to do Malaysia because I don't want to give away diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should do Malaysia.
Malaysia. Chips.
Also, I feel like that one can justify any number of like Patreon postcards or whatever.
Yeah. However much brand collateral we want to build. Okay, that's one I'll pick.